Hi there, my name's Mr. Adams and I'm a maths teacher with over 20 years experience. Over these series of videos, I plan to put forward what I consider to be solutions to housing affordability. Unfortunately, politicians and economists seem to get some fundamental things wrong. So particularly in these early videos, I'm going to look at the things that people are getting wrong. In this particular video, I'm going to be looking at the idea that Australia gets richer when all house prices go up. I'm going to show that that's not the case, and I'll also point out some other misunderstandings that people have. Let's go back over 2,000 years ago. A person called Euclid put together a series of propositions about mathematics. From these ideas, all mathematical concepts were able to be built on. So this is why in these videos I start with the fundamentals so that we can build into solutions that actually work. My first proposition is that Australia doesn't get richer if house prices go up. Now this is the opposite to what economists seem to believe. Their logical argument is that if Australia's housing increases from $1 trillion to $2 trillion, then we have an extra $1 trillion in assets. And I can see why it's tempting to think this, but I'll explain why this is not the case. So here we've got a thought experiment. We've got two different people on two different islands. And what we're going to do is look at different scenarios. So imagine on one island, the person has gold, and then on the other island, they've got coconuts which to buy. When gold prices are normal, we can use a normal amount of gold to buy a normal amount of coconuts. When gold prices double, well, as you would expect, you can buy twice as many coconuts. If the price of gold doubles, and so does the food prices, well, we're actually back to the same situation. So even though the gold is worth twice as much, it doesn't buy you any more. It's still buying the same amount of coconuts as it was in the beginning, where both gold and food prices were normal. We can see already that there's a flaw in the logical argument that if Australia's housing doubles in value, that will have more assets. Because we could see with the gold example, well, if everything doubles, then you're no better off. Here we've got the same scenario as before. However, this time both the people have houses. If the property price doubles, this is effectively the situation where we have both the gold and food double. Neither of them have an advantage. So even though theoretically on one level their house is worth more, they are actually no richer. At a first glance, it looks like the person where their house price has doubled is actually become a lot richer. But the issue with housing is if he sells his house, well, he doesn't have a house to live in. So it's not something that he could actually utilize. Property is what I like to call a semi-transferable asset. You can exchange gold, shares, crypto, cash and bonds with each other or for property. But property can only be exchanged for another property. There are some exceptions. The first is that if you have more than one property, you can offload those properties that you're not living in without becoming homeless. Or if you decide to go from home ownership to renting, or you decide to move overseas. Let's point out the obvious here. Property has more in common with essential services. So a property isn't just an item that you own, it has to be connected with water, power, telecommunications, and is situated via access to public roads and other public and private infrastructure. Often around the world you see areas where there are all these modern buildings, but you've got this old home stuck sometimes at the base, sometimes they're built over top of it. And this is because people see their home as something more valuable than what money can buy. They see it as something that's essential. Property, in my view, is an essential service and not an asset. And this is how a lot of people view it, because you need somewhere to live. People's behaviour also treat it more like an essential service than an asset. People think more about amenities and what a home can provide over a potential future value. So if we take one of our other essential services, which is getting an ambulance to a hospital, if the price of this doubled, we'd be very concerned. We'd say that this has become inefficient. It is the same thing when the price of property increases. It means that it's become less efficient for us to house our citizens. When other essential services go up in price, we see this as the service becoming less efficient. Conclusion. Property is not an asset like gold, shares, crypto, cash, bonds, because these are fully exchangeable. Whereas a property you live in is only exchangeable for another property which you need to live in. Housing is an essential service and not an asset. When house prices increase, we're actually housing people less efficiently. It's obvious that housing is an essential service, but often they get confused for assets like shares. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and hit the like button. Please leave a review and a comment. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a maths teacher with 20 years experience with a passion for teaching financial literacy. Please read the disclaimer.